Hello students. In the online classes of B.Sc Part 1st Bio in Paper 1st, we have been studying in the previous lectures about fossils. The science of the study of fossils is called paleontology. Similarly, the study of the composition and the time relations of stratified rocks is known as the stratigraphy. Fossils are the most important source of information to a stratigrapher as these provide invaluable clues pertaining to the age of the rocks containing them. Today we are going to study about these rocks. The history of life on Earth is recorded in the rocks in the language of fossils. Earth has three layers: the crust, the mantle, and the core. The crust describes the outermost shell of the terrestrial planet and it is made up of solid rocks and minerals. The mantle is beneath the crust, which is also mostly solid rocks and minerals, but it is punctuated by the malleable areas of semi-solid magma, and this acts as a cushion between the outer crust and the inner core. Then the third is the core. As at the center of the earth is a very hot, dense and metal core. These are two. There's an internal core and the external core. The earth's layers constantly interact with each other, and the crust and the upper portion of the mantle are part of a single geologic unit known as the lithosphere. The Earth's crust has been subjected to a wide range of complex internal forces within the Earth. This force often brings striking changes called revolutions in the Earth's crust, like elevating or lowering of the land masses. The land masses are further subjected to ceaseless actions of wind, frost, denudation, and other forces. The combined action of all these forces leads to the formation of new mountains and rocks by way of different processes. Rock, as in geology, it means naturally occurring and coherent aggregate of one or more minerals. Such aggregates constitute the basic unit of which is the solid earth, and it is composed and typically it forms recognizable and mappable volumes. The classification of rocks. Rocks are commonly divided into three major classes according to the processes that resulted in their formation. These three classes are igneous rocks, sedimentary rocks, and the metamorphic rocks. The igneous rocks, which are solidified from molten material called magma. The sedimentary rocks are those consisting of fragments derived from the pre-existing rocks or the materials precipitated from solutions. And the third, metamorphic rocks, which have been derived from either the igneous rocks or the sedimentary rocks under the conditions that causes changes in mineralogical composition, texture and internal structure. Now this is the classification of the rocks. We have three types of rocks: the igneous rocks, the sedimentary rocks and the metamorphic rock. Then these three classes in turn are further subdivided into numerous groups and types on the basis of other factors, the most important of which is the chemical, mineralogical and the textural attributes. So accordingly, igneous is divided into intrusive and extrusive, metamorphic into foliated and non-foliated, and similarly sedimentary into chemical, clastic and biological. Now first we will study about the igneous rocks. These are the crystalline solids which form directly from the cooling of the magma. This is an exothermic process, that means it loses heat and it involves a phase change from liquid to solid state. The earth is made up of igneous rocks, at least at the surface where our planet is exposed to the coldness of the space. These are again of two types and they are given names based upon two things: their composition, that is what they are made of, and the texture, that is how big the crystals are of which they are made. The word igneous is derived from the Latin word ignis, which means fire. The rocks formed by the solidification on the cooling of molten magma are called igneous rocks. These are the different types of igneous rocks: ultramafic, mafic, then we have the intermediate igneous rocks, and then the felsic. So it depends on what they are made of. These are ultramafic, contains the iron and they are and magnesium rich. They contain little silica and no free quartz. And the mafic ones contain the calcium feldspar. Example is the basalt. Then the intermediate ones, which consist of iron and magnesium silicates and sodium and aluminium rich minerals, and the felsic rocks, which are rich in the potassium feldspar, aluminium rich mica and quartz. Now depending on where the molten magma cools, they are again of two types: the intrusive rocks and the extrusive rocks. The intrusive rocks, when the molten magma cools deep inside the earth's crust, when it cools inside the earth's crust, the intrusive igneous rocks are formed. They cool down very slowly and they form large grains. Granite is an example of intrusive igneous rock. Then the extrusive rocks. When the molten magma comes on the earth's surface, it rapidly cools down and it becomes solid. This type of rocks are known as the extrusive igneous rocks. They have very fine grained structure. Basalt is an example of extrusive igneous rocks and the Deccan Plateau is made by this. Now again, this is a comparison between the intrusive and the extrusive igneous rocks. In the intrusive, the magma cools beneath the earth's surface, whereas in the extrusive, the magma or the lava cools on the earth's surface. In the intrusive rocks, it cools very slowly, and in the extrusive, the lava cools very quickly. In the intrusive rocks, the coarse grained texture, and in the extrusive, it is the fine grained texture of the rocks, the minerals. In intrusive rocks, there are large crystals, whereas in the extrusive rocks, the crystals are small or there may be no crystals at all. Example of intrusive is granite and the example of extrusive is basalt. Now the second rock that we will study is the sedimentary rocks. These rocks get their name from the Latin word sedimentum, which means to settle down. These rocks are formed by the settling down of sediments. And the sediments are the smaller particles or the fragments that are formed by the breaking down of the rocks when they roll down, crack and hit each other. These sediments are transported by wind, water, etc. These sediments, when compressed and hardened, form sedimentary rocks. Sandstone is an example of sedimentary rock. It is made up of grains of sand. The sedimentary rocks may also contain fossils of plants, animals, and other microorganisms that had once lived on them. Now, this picture shows how the sedimentary rock is formed from sediment to rock. Most sedimentary rocks are formed by a series of processes, that is erosion, deposition, compaction and cementation. In the first it is the erosion, when the particles are carried away from their source by water or wind. Then it is the deposition, when the particles are deposited as loosely packed segments. Then compaction, when the particles are squeezed together under great pressure. And then comes the cementation, when the particles are glued together as mineral solutions harden. The key word here is the pressure. As the pressure is exerted, the sediment is converted into a rock. It forms a rock. Then the third rock that we will study is the metamorphic rock. The Greek word metamorphos means change of form. It is the root of the word metamorphic. In other words, these are the rocks that are formed when the igneous and the sedimentary rocks change their form under the following two circumstances, either because of great heat or because of great pressure. And the following are the examples of the metamorphic rocks: slate and marble. What is slate? When the clay becomes slate, after metamorphosis. The texture is foliated. And the limestone becomes marble after metamorphosis, and its texture is non-foliated. Now, what is a rock cycle? The rock cycle is a group of changes that is taking place. The igneous rocks can change into the sedimentary rocks or into metamorphic rocks. Similarly, sedimentary rock can also change into a metamorphic rock or into igneous rock, and the metamorphic rock can change into igneous or sedimentary rock. So this is a rock cycle when the changes take place from one rock to the other. We can easily understand this here. This is the igneous rock, the sediments, the sedimentary rock and the metamorphic rock. Now the igneous rocks, when there is weathering and erosion of this igneous rock, the sediments are left loosed free. These then on cementation and compaction form the sedimentary rocks, and the sedimentary rocks under high pressure and chemical fluids are converted into metamorphic rocks. The metamorphic rock on weathering and erosion converts into cement, and the metamorphic rocks on melting forms the magma, and this magma on cooling forms the igneous rocks. And in the igneous rocks, when the melting takes place, the magma is formed, and this magma again gets converted into another rock. So, and the igneous rocks on heat, pressure and other chemical fluids are converted into the metamorphic rocks. So in this way the rock cycle is continuing, and one rock is converted into the other rock. So students, today we studied about the structure of the Earth's crust and the different types of rocks that are present in them.